This is Steve Hackett. You're watching the Guitar Mania channel. You get used to a crazy life. It's part of the business, and I had, other jobs before I was in the music business. I left school at 16, and between the years 16 and 20, I was doing other jobs. So I always think, my God, I could be doing these other things, and each time there's a crazy schedule, I know what the alternative is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The alternative is to do something that still wipes you out, but that you're not interested in, and to do something you're passionate about is what it's all about for everyone in music. I think.
I guess you're really blessed to be.
Yes, I think so. I think to myself, I'm very lucky. Somewhere along the line, the gods smiled down, and I was given a clean bill of health and all my marbles most of the time. And there's just a love of music, and I always think somehow, I'm always working towards the next one, the next show, the next gig, the next album, the next song will be really marvelous, we hope, And it's just always a chance to improve on the previous model each time. Whether you do actually improve on it, I don't know. And whether you get more original, I don't know. I know that musicians tend to invest in their sense of passion early on, and then technique takes over, but the plan is not to let technique get in the way of building the dynamics, I think, of a song, and allowing a song to breathe as if it was a living thing, allowing it to have its own emotions, and it's like parenting a child. There's no point trying to force it to do things it doesn't want to do. It's going to eat what it wants to eat. It'll love whatever it loves. So I think each song is like a world. Potentially, it's like a world unto itself. A song that you're really touched by, it seems like a complete thing.
And I particularly liked your the Beyond the Shrouded Horizon album.
Thank you.
And in particular, the song A Place Called Freedom.
Oh yes, yeah.
I also liked your guitar solo there, and it's a great album in my opinion.
I'm glad you like that one. Yeah, I had a good time doing that album. I think the only difference between a really good album and a mediocre album is how much you enjoy doing it. If you enjoyed doing it, it makes all the difference. I'm the only yardstick that I've got. Perhaps myself, my wife, and the band, of course, people that are close. But normally, if I like something, I'm content to be very unoriginal, but just to be passionate about it. I don't worry about being the first one there,
How was it with Genesis Revisited 2? How much did you like producing that album?
Well, I did, and that's an example of music that's co-written with everybody. Everyone writing parts. I run with the ball, somebody else runs with the ball, somebody else, we pass it backwards and forwards. So I loved these songs. I still thought they were magic. All of the songs I undertook, I thought were magic in their own way, and so that gave me the energy and the team to finish it. So although it's a very long album, it took about August to October, I think it was. It took a little bit more than 6 months to do. No, August, that was it. We did it in about 7 months. That was it. We did it in about 6 or 7 months. That's not bad for 150 minutes worth of music, just about. You know, really long double album.
Let us talk briefly about performing the current album live. You have great musicians with you.
Yes.
Michael Ackerfeld,
brilliant.
Stephen Wilson,
Yes.
just to name a few.
Yeah, they're marvellous.
How do the songs feel like live?
It feels as if this was the team that wrote them. You know, it feels quite extraordinary. Yeah.
Watcher of the Skies.
Yeah.
You have the Chamber of 32 Doors.
Yes.
I mean,
I normally balls up the intro of 32 Doors. I don't know why.
Firth of Fifth.
Yeah.
I mean, all this great stuff. I mean, also when you recorded, revisited too, how much did you change from the original stuff that you played on the original records?
Well,
or did you stay very true to the...
Something like the Chamber of 32 Doors, I think of it as a vocalist tune, and there's something glorious about the way the vocals work. Great long sustained vocal note. And I wanted the guitar to be able to do the same thing. But on the original, I didn't have the sustain, the sound, the technique, maybe even the confidence of knowing that you had to hold that note. And but now there's a way of doing it pretty much every night and nailing it. Yes.
How did you swap the files? I mean, did you send them the rough tracks and did they record? Or how does it...
Yeah, a lot of file swapping, that seems to be... If you're doing a lot of guest things, it's the modern way. Some people I work with face-to-face, but other people sent me stuff and I was very pleasantly surprised. I allowed people to have their own interpretations. That there's no point with that kind of music. And also I think particularly with singers, they have to be, like an actor, they have to be in the moment. And so you have to let them do that. There's no point pressing buttons before they've even arrived at their ideal interpretation of it. You know, there's got to be that. And I think the songs are very well known, and very well known by the people who worked on them. So because of that, it meant that so many performances were just perfect the way they arrived. We changed very little.
I guess many people have been waiting for a very long time to hear some of the songs performed live, and particularly younger people, the younger generation. And
yes. There are people of all ages that come to the shows, which is marvellous because otherwise, you know, it's you can look at it in terms of archive and nostalgia and all of those, you know, ageist propositions, but descriptions. But there's something else, isn't there? There's something, you know, when any music from any time, from Bach and before, if musicians and an audience is still interested in it, it is always current. It's always part of the, what did Einstein call it? The continuum. So I often listen to Bach and sometimes get to play it on record. And for me, you know, it's like, it's contemporary music. It's thoroughly, you know, through composed music, which, I mean, I find it very romantic. I don't think of him as baroque and strict and all these things that, all the pejoratives people say. But, you know, this is the thing about taste and prejudice. We're beset by these concepts, and particularly the younger you are, as a musician, you start to specialize in your chosen instrument. And when I was young, I could only really hear the guitar, and I wasn't really aware of the other instruments. But guitar is only part of what I do. That's I spend most time as a craftsman playing guitar, but the other part of the time is in encouraging other people to be their complete ideal selves and to get the best performance out of them. And some people like guidance, some people like criticism, some people like praise. I've noticed this with young players who are very, very, very young. Twice in my life, very, very young players. One was a teenager, and the other one was even younger. And I knew they were both very good, potentially. And I told them that. And one young boy, he came to a show in Rome, an outdoor thing, and I dedicated a song to him and said, he doesn't realize it yet, but I think I might have said he's a genius. And then about 6 months later, I saw a film of him playing, and he was just an absolute monster. So at a certain age, in 6 months, you can fly. The difference between walking and flying, it's extraordinary. So I've always found that you get more out of people by encouraging them.
You're equally at home, because you mentioned Bach and of course the guitar and stuff. You appear to be equally at home with the classical guitar, but also with the electric guitar.
Yeah. How does that work?
How does that work?
Okay. I'm really a self-taught nylon player. I heard Segovia plays Bach in 1965 when I was 15, and I fell in love with it from the very first note. And I thought to myself, I don't want to spend the rest of my life trying to perfect this, like an actor trying to do Shakespeare. I thought, if I can take an influence from this at some point. So many years later, decades later, I started growing my nails and substituting for the plectrum with the nails, which meant I could play nylon. I did some Bach pieces, but I recorded them just a bit at a time because it's very difficult music. But I let my feelings run away with me with it. I thought, if we can get a really good performance of this very difficult stuff, again, it's the passion that sustains you over all this. And I think it's common to all musicians and all guitarists that we all go through the period of, in the early days, the first thing we play is a terrible guitar that shreds our fingers, and and you fight through the wounds, and you hope the calluses are going to come, and sometimes they never do, until you've got the right tension strings and everything that's comfortable for you. But that time passes, and pain gives way to joy, doesn't it? I mean, I actually use, unlike a lot of guitarists, I had an accident with this hand many years ago, and I lost a tendon and a nerve on connecting my thumb. I had it stitched up, but it's actually quite weak, this hand, by comparison to this hand.
But for classical guitar, you need strength in your left hand.
Yeah,
more
well,
than for the electric guitar. Or?
I think you need strength for both. I think you need suppleness more for this hand, and I think strength for this one. I find. Okay. But not in every case, of course. There's exercises that are quite brutal for a classical guitarist.
Right.
Such as being able to hammer on and off equally with every finger. That's the most brutal exercise, I think, available for nylon. Electric guitar, I use very light strings because I need to be able to vibrato, and I don't have the grip that most players have. I don't have the grip that I had when I was 16, never mind the grip that I have now in my 60s. So I use eights. I use a very light set, but it means that I can vibrato with that, finger vibrato, which took me ages to get together. You know, it took me, you know, Clapton had it down by 1966. And it must have taken me until the year 2000 and something to have...
You're kidding.
Really, yeah, because I struggled with it, and I did, you know, the 3-finger version and the 2-finger and down this way and up that way. And freestanding, you know, without the thumb. So because of the grip, you know.
Yeah.
But then I learned that the best way to do that is slow and wide, very slowly. And as a result of doing that correctly, you don't end up with that twitch. You end up with a fluent way of doing it. So slow and wide, I always say to people, if people are asking me to teach them how to do it, and I did manage to teach Roger King how to do it. He doesn't play much guitar these days, but he learned to do a really good finger vibrato, and I said, there you go, you got it. Slow and wide. You know.
From the wrist, or?
My brother used to do a great one from the wrist. He used to be able to do this. I'm not quite sure where mine comes from. It's sort of, yes, I think it is the wrist. It probably is the wrist.
Because I think Larry Carlton said that it's coming from the wrist, at least.
I think it's the wrist, yes. It's a kind of coordination that comes from everything, isn't it, really, you know. And even great players don't do a fab vibrato every time on every string in every position. You would need a lot of strength for that.
Is it true that you invented the tapping technique?
As far as I know, I'm the inventor of it, yes. I never heard anyone use it before me. Yeah.
I mean,
And that's part of the language of shredders, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, it became... I'm still a one-finger tapper. Sometimes I try and incorporate the two. But
where did you get the inspiration from?
Again, it goes right back to, I was trying to play something, just a line from Bach. You know, it might have been a triplet. And I thought, oh, the best way to do this would be on one string. But I didn't, when I first tried it, I wasn't able to coordinate the time. And then I did it with Musical Box, and I used to do it live, the track, before we recorded it. And it seemed to be a really good technique. And I realized that for a very short while, from 1971 to 73, when I used it on the 3 albums, on Nursery Crime, Foxtrot, and Selling England by the Pound, particularly on the track Dancing with the Moonlit Night. We play that live, by the way. For about 3 years, I think I was probably the fastest guitarist on the planet because of that technique. And then, of course, there are millions of guitarists who are faster than me now, but it's just, you know, the thing about speed, I have an ambivalent feeling towards it. A classical player would call it a cadenza. Fast playing, perhaps improvised. That's not the mainstay of my playing. Melody, certainly. Sound, certainly.
You can read music and stuff.
I can read music very, very slowly. I have to spell with the aid of a dictionary.
I mean, how did you learn the Segovia pieces? Did you listen to them? And
no, I learnt one of the pieces from the stave. But I think I got it wrong. You know, I confused the octaves. So I'm not a fluent, fast reader. So the rest of them I did by ear, and with Roger's help. Okay, you know, with the help of a fantastic keyboard player who will loop something and listen to it and be able to tell if there's 2 octaves going or what have you. So that's
impressive. Wow.
it's an impressive facility to have. Yeah, some of these really wonderful pieces written for cello, I think. Segovia played them probably much faster than they were written. And so I went for that, and as I say, we did it in small stages. I just wanted to produce a really great sounding album. I didn't want to put people through the agonies of me screwing up Bach every night. Because really, it is a lifelong dedication. If you're going to play that stuff for a living, I don't know if it's possible to do that and be a rock player. But I wanted to do a passable impression of, a classical player on record, and so that's what I do.
Or are there still things that you're practicing?
Oh, I'm still practicing. Yes, and I learned, for instance, that if you played the things you learn on a nylon, one day you'll be able to bring it to an electric, and to a 12-string as well. 12-string can be really lovely if played with the fingers. So sometimes I play with the fingers, sometimes I use this nail as if it's a plectrum. I can get a little bit more volume out of it live if I use this as a pick, this 4-finger. But they're great techniques. They can sound wonderful.
Yeah. Have you brought your famous gold top Gibson?
I haven't. No, I've got a Fernandez with a sustainer pickup in it. The Bernie Fernandez gold top, which they made for me in the style of the Les Paul. Now this one has got a tremolo arm, a Floyd Rose tremolo. It plays very well. It's quite a thick neck. It's a little bit like a Les Paul original. I have a gold top, as you know, from 1957. Next record, I'm going to play it more and more because there's something about the sound of it. I discovered that there's a great sound if you use one of those guitars and a Sans amp straight through, and without any amp modelling devices, just straight through, because it's not as bright as my Fernandez. So it means there's a cut-off almost, and it's got that very sort of 60s close mic'd sound to it, which I love. So my plan is to have 2 guitars side by side, guitar stand,
Yeah.
And if I can't get it out of one, I'll get it out of the other.
Okay.
That's the plan. I've never been much of a Stratocaster man, although I realise that there are people who make Strats sound wonderful. And
but your tone is great. I mean,
no, many of them. Well, it's a funny thing. I don't think there's a guitar that's been invented that can do it all. In heaven, there will be a guitar that can do it all. And that'll be something. I'm looking forward to that.
Really?